Have you ever noticed something strange? The argument is over. The other person has already walked away. And then, suddenly your brain becomes a genius. You think of the perfect answer, the perfect comeback, the perfect point that would have completely changed the conversation. And you sit there thinking, why didn't I say that earlier? If that has happened to you, you're not slow, you're not bad at speaking, and you're definitely not less intelligent than the person you were arguing with. In fact, there's a hidden brain trick that smart people use without even realizing it. And once you understand it, you'll never see arguments the same way again. Because the reason you freeze during arguments has almost nothing to do with intelligence. It has everything to do with what your brain is doing behind the scenes. And what you're about to learn can help you think faster, not only during arguments, but during interviews, presentations, difficult conversations, and even everyday situations. But first, let's talk about something almost everyone experiences. Imagine this: a teacher asks you a question in front of the class, or your friend suddenly challenges your opinion, or someone says something unfair. In that moment, your heart starts beating faster. Your mind becomes noisy. You know you have something to say, but the words won't come out. It's like your brain suddenly disconnects. Then, an hour later, while taking a shower, boom! Now you know exactly what you should have said. So what happened? Did your intelligence disappear for a few minutes? Of course not. Something much more interesting happened. Your brain switched modes. Most people think the brain is like a computer, but it's not. A computer gets faster under pressure. Humans often get slower. Researchers have found that when we feel threatened, stressed, embarrassed, judged, or attacked, a more primitive part of the brain becomes active. Its job is not to help you win arguments. Its job is to keep you safe. Thousands of years ago, that was useful. If a wild animal suddenly appeared, you didn't need brilliant thoughts. You needed quick survival reactions. Run, hide, fight. But here's the problem. Your brain often reacts the same way during social pressure. An argument can feel like danger. A difficult conversation can feel like danger. Being judged can feel like danger. And when that happens, the thinking part of your brain gets less energy. That's why your words disappear. That's why your thoughts become messy. That's why you suddenly can't think clearly. Now, here's the surprising part. The smartest people aren't always the ones with the highest IQ. They're often the people who stay calm the longest. Think about that. Two people can have the same intelligence, but if one stays calm while the other becomes emotional, the calm person usually sounds smarter. Not because they know more, because they can access what they know. And this leads to the brain trick. But before I tell you what it is, let's look at a real example. Many people have watched interviews with the legendary investor Warren Buffett. One thing stands out. When difficult questions are asked, he rarely rushes. He pauses, sometimes for several seconds. Most people are uncomfortable with silence, but he isn't. And that's important. Because fast thinking doesn't actually start with speaking faster. It starts with slowing down for a moment. That sounds backward, doesn't it? But stay with me. Imagine your brain is like a glass of muddy water. When everything is shaken up, you can't see through it. The harder you shake it, the worse it gets. But if you stop for a moment, the mud settles, and suddenly everything becomes clearer. That's exactly what happens in your mind. The hidden brain trick smart people use is creating a tiny pause before responding. Not 10 seconds, not 1 minute. Sometimes just one breath. 1 second. That's all. That tiny pause gives your thinking brain time to catch up, and the results are shocking. Instead of reacting emotionally, you respond intelligently. Instead of saying something you'll regret, you say something useful. Instead of freezing, you gain control. Now, you might be thinking, but won't I look weak if I pause? Actually, the opposite is true. Think about the people who seem confident. They don't rush every sentence. They don't panic when silence appears. They take their time. Because confidence is comfortable with a pause. Insecurity feels the need to fill every second with words. And there's another reason this works. Most arguments are not won by having better answers. They're won by asking better questions. This is where smart thinkers do something different. Instead of immediately defending themselves, they become curious. Imagine someone says, "That's a terrible idea." Most people instantly fight back, but a smarter response could be, "What makes you think that?" Notice what just happened. The pressure moved. Now you're gathering information instead of defending yourself. You're giving your brain time to think. You're turning a battle into a conversation. And that's powerful. Because curiosity is faster than panic. The next trick is even more interesting. Researchers studying decision-making discovered something surprising. The brain works better when it has simple mental frameworks. Think of them like shortcuts. Instead of creating a response from scratch, you already know where to start. For example, whenever someone disagrees with you, your brain can automatically ask 3 questions. Is this true? Is this partly true? What am I missing? That's it. Simple. But notice what happens. Instead of becoming defensive, you become analytical. Your brain shifts from fighting mode into thinking mode. And that tiny change can completely transform the quality of your responses. Now, let's talk about something nobody likes to admit. Sometimes the reason we think slowly during arguments is because we're trying too hard to look smart. Think about it. The moment you become obsessed with saying the perfect thing, pressure increases, and under pressure, thinking becomes harder. It's similar to sports. Imagine a football player taking a penalty kick. If they start overthinking every movement, performance often drops. Psychologists call this choking under pressure. The same thing happens in conversations. The more desperately you want the perfect answer, the harder it becomes to find one. Ironically, people often think faster when they stop chasing perfection. They focus on understanding instead of impressing. And here's a small experiment you can try. The next time someone challenges your opinion, don't immediately answer. Take one slow breath. Just one. Then ask yourself, what is the real point they're making? You will be amazed how different your response becomes. Because most arguments aren't actually about words. They're about emotions. And when you understand the emotion behind the words, everything gets easier. A person may sound angry, but underneath, they might feel ignored. A person may sound aggressive, but underneath, they might feel insecure. A person may sound rude, but underneath, they might simply be frustrated. When you see this, your brain stops treating them like an enemy. And once that happens, thinking becomes much easier. Now, remember the question from the beginning? Why do perfect responses appear after the argument ends? Here's the answer. After the conversation is over, the pressure disappears. Your brain feels safe again. The emotional noise becomes quiet, and the thinking part of your mind finally gets full access to everything it already knew. The answer was always there. You just couldn't reach it under pressure. That's why the goal isn't becoming smarter. The goal is becoming calmer, because calmness unlocks intelligence. And this changes something important. The next time you freeze during an argument, don't tell yourself, "I'm bad at thinking." Don't tell yourself, "I'm not smart enough." That's probably not true. Your brain may simply be overwhelmed, and once you understand that, everything changes. You stop attacking yourself. You stop feeling embarrassed. You stop believing something is wrong with you. Instead, you learn the real skill. Pause. Breathe. Get curious. Listen carefully. Then respond, not react, respond. And over time, you'll notice something amazing. The moments where you used to freeze become the moments where you think clearly. The conversations that used to scare you become easier. The pressure that used to control you starts losing its power. Because smart thinking isn't about having the fastest mouth, it's about having the calmest mind. And maybe that's the hidden truth most people never learn. The people who seem quick-witted aren't always thinking faster. Sometimes they're simply staying calmer while everyone else is panicking. So the next time an argument happens, remember this: you don't need a perfect comeback. You don't need to win every conversation. You don't need to prove you're the smartest person in the room. Take a breath. Create a pause. Give your brain a second to catch up. You may discover that the answer was already inside you all along. And if today's video helped you see your mind differently, carry this lesson with you. A calm mind sees what a rushed mind misses. Keep growing, keep learning, and as always, shine more than you did yesterday.